Hello, everyone. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson University Office of Public Relations, and this is The View from the Hill, the podcast of Lindsey Wilson University. Every week during the academic year, The View from the Hill features conversations with some of the people who help create the dynamic living, learning environment that serves the educational needs of every Lindsey Wilson student every day. In this 22nd podcast of the 2025-2026 school year, we will preview the inaugural season of women's flag football at Lindsey Wilson. Lindsey Wilson University's 29th intercollegiate varsity sport will debut on February 21st. That's when the Blue Raiders women's flag football team will face Cowan University of North Carolina, the first of two games Lindsey Wilson will play down in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. Lindsey Wilson is scheduled to play two more games on the road before opening at home on the evening of Friday, March 13th against Campbellsville University. Chris Raggard is the first coach of Lindsey Wilson's first women's flag football team. Chris joins us on this edition of A View from the Hill along with a couple of his players, junior Jade Mazziata, who's from Staten Island, New York, and junior Ashton Dickerson, who's from Pace, Florida. They're going to tell us all about the preparations that have been made to prepare for flag football's first season at Lindsey Wilson, as well as give us a 30,000-foot overview of the sport. Chris, you were hired a little more than a year ago to start flag football at Lindsey Wilson. I imagine those first 12 months have both flown by and also, in one respect, crept by in anticipation of the first game. And here we are, ready to go.
Yeah, it did. Beginning back in November of 2024 when I was hired, as soon as I got, the official notice that I was going to be the first head coach for Lindsey Wilson, the first thing I did was start reaching out to players from all over, but specifically players that I had known because I'd coached. Ashton being one of the first calls that I made because I knew that, her 2 years at Florida Gateway were about to be over, and that she was going to be looking for a place to play, moving forward and finishing up her college, studies. And so I reached out to her along with several others that I've brought with us from Florida. And so, really we're looking for players that number one, knew our system and knew what we wanted to do, but also knew the type of program that we wanted to build. And so, it was easy to call Ashton, and then, obviously Jade, I'd seen her from afar playing, knew about her from her time up in New York and then also at Warner University. So it was easy decision to contact these two.
You mentioned you were from Florida. You have roots in Kentucky, but Florida is where flag football is really flourishing right now. It's starting to pick up momentum in Kentucky. What's it been like starting a program from scratch here at Lindsey Wilson?
It's been rewarding and challenging at the same time. Being able to bring in kids that had known what flag football was and had played it for, not just 2, 3, 4 years, but, in some cases 7, 8, 9 years, and then finding kids from the state of Kentucky that, had a flag background. I mean, we have a couple on our team that played travel flag from the state of Kentucky, but didn't have an outlet at a high school level to play flag, being able to have them come in, and then, finding athletes in the state of Kentucky that we saw that could transition their skill sets to play flag. That was another thing that we wanted to be able to do. And I think we've done that pretty well so far. And, we have kids coming in for the class of 2026 as well. I mean, we have a commitment that came in today from a girl from Butler High School up in Louisville. So, we're really looking forward to as we go along in the process over the next 2, 3, 4 years of building the program, being able to find the kids that fit our system, not just athletically, but, in the classroom and as good people.
For folks who aren't familiar with flag football, briefly, how many players at a time on the field? And talk a little bit about the fact that there are positions, but you look for players that can play lots of different positions.
Right. So there's 7 at a time per team. So it's a lot like 7v7 in the boys, that they do over the summer. Obviously, there are a lot of differences, but it's the same kind of concept in terms of there are 7 per side. Everybody's an eligible receiver on offense. So, tactically what we look for is athletes, and we put them in the position that we best see fit. So like on offense, our center has to be very athletic, and we have to have someone who can not only block but catch and run and do different things at that position. Obviously our receivers, from the slot receivers to the outside receivers, have to be able to catch and do their job as well. Quarterbacks have to be able to throw, but also have to be mobile enough to evade a rusher and be able to get upfield if they need to. And then we also have what we call a hybrid stack/block position. That they can catch passes, but they can also come in and block in certain scenarios as well. So on the defensive side, we have to have probably our fastest but also best flag puller has to be our rusher. But we also have to have girls that understand aspects of boys football coverages. So cover 2, cover 3. And we're working a lot on that right now in terms of our secondary and our linebackers knowing what to do in those scenarios. So, a lot of it is finding athletes that can play, not just one side of the ball, but both sides of the ball, or play multiple positions, but finding the best avenue to use their skill sets.
Ashton, let's talk a little bit about how you found your way into flag football. You're from Pace, Florida, obviously a flag football rich state. How long have you been playing the sport, and what pulled you into it in the first place?
So I started playing my junior year of high school, all thanks to Coach Raggard, because I was playing basketball all up until I came to Florida. My dad's a football coach, so I've been moving a lot. But when I came to Florida, I was like, okay, maybe I should try something new, see if I like it or not. So Coach Raggard, he got me out there, got me playing. I was like, okay, I actually enjoy this sport. Like, this is something I could do at the collegiate level. So I ended up going to Florida Gateway after my senior year. Back-to-back national champions, great teammates. Shout out Coach Hefty. He's a great coach as well. Like, couldn't do it without Coach Raggard and him. And then after my 2 years, I was like, I still want to play, but I don't know where I'm going to end up at yet. So Coach Raggard called me when he got the job, and it was like, hey, you can come up here. We got you up here at Lindsey Wilson. I'll let you come visit the school. Love the campus. Love the people. And right now it just feels like family. Like, I've actually found my true family here. So with Jade and my other teammates, Coach Raggard, he put a really good group of girls together.
What's it like to be a pioneer at Lindsey Wilson? You're, remember, the first team, the inaugural flag football team in the history of Lindsey Wilson University.
I think it's something special since the sport is growing. And it just reaches out to, like, younger girls. Like, you don't have to play basketball all the way growing up. Like, you can come play dual sports. You can, if you want to, now you can come play tackle football and flag. So it's just amazing to see the sport grow, honestly and truly.
Jade, how about you? How did you get involved with flag football? How long have you been playing?
I've been playing for 10 years, so I feel like my story's a little different. I wanted to play because my brothers played football for so long. They're 7 years older than me, so pretty big age gap. And I grew up on a football field. Like, I feel like I'm like basically born on the field. So I saw them playing, and my dad would always be at their games, and I was like, okay, like, I want this connection that he has with them. So I want to play tackle football, but he wouldn't let me do that. It was like 6th grade, so I was bigger than all the boys at the time, so I was like, I can do this. But I started off playing flag at, like, it was like a rec league at home in Staten Island. And then we started seeing that there was travel games, but it was only co-ed. So I was playing on a team full of boys, and I started off as rusher, which is funny because I'm nowhere. I do not rush for sevens here. So I started off then, and then my coach, his name's Coach Mike, and he started his own travel team, which is called SIG, and we started playing with a bunch of girls that we got from Staten Island, and the sport became really big in New York. I know everybody says like it's like a big sport in Florida, but it's like up in New York, it's like it's pretty big too, but not for high school. I feel like that's why it's not talked about a lot. But I started with travel first because they didn't have it in high school, and honestly, it gave me many opportunities. I was on the U.S. national team when I was 17, my junior year of high school, when COVID hit and it was big. So travel was like something really important to me at the time.
What's it like to be a pioneer here at Lindsey Wilson, to be a member of the first flag football team? That has to be kind of a neat feeling.
Honestly, to like sit here and think about it, it's like pretty crazy because you're just like, oh, like I'm just a part of another team because I went to another school before this, so it's like, oh, I'm just a part of another team. But like me and Ashton, are like, we're the oldest girls on the team. We're like really starting this team. So we get to see these girls grow depending on how long we stay here and like if we want to coach them afterwards. It's a special thing because these girls look up to us. So it's like we have to hold like a certain responsibility with them because they're our friends, but also like they're people that we look up to as well.
What's it been like to bring a team together in less than a year? I mean, you're going to be on the field for the first time competing, and you're playing with players from all over. Some know each other from back where they had played, but that has to be kind of an interesting dynamic and a really interesting chemistry.
Like Jade, for example, we have another girl named Jolly on our team. They're all from up north, so when they came down here, nobody really knew what to expect. But they ended up being some of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. So I like to get to know the background of people and like where they came from, the way that they talk, and just like the way that they interact with people. Because I thought people from New York were just mean and they have this certain accent that they have going on. And then the girls from Florida, we're all about the beach. And then we come to Kentucky and it's like, okay, now we got snow. Like, what do we expect next?
So in the beginning, when we first started practices, I was nervous with how the team was going to mesh because everybody was new. Like, it was a fresh new team. There was no returners. Everybody was a recruit. So everybody was starting from day one. And I was nervous because I felt like I had a reputation to uphold because these girls, like, knew I was from somewhere. They saw, like, these posts about me. So I was like, okay, I have to prove what they see. But when I came to practice and everybody was playing, it was like everybody was on the same playing field, that there was no one better than somebody else. Everybody was pushing each other to work. The team has really come together as one, and I feel like being a first-year team, you wouldn't expect the team to mesh so well, but I really feel like this team is a family, and I haven't been, like, happier than I have been here. It's like everybody gets along, and that makes the bond of the team so much more special because when you know the girls on your team and you're close with them, you play so much better.
You're listening to the Lindsey Wilson View from the Hill podcast. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson Office of Public Relations. I'm talking to members of the Lindsey Wilson women's flag football team. They're preparing to play the program's first game, and that will be on February 21st. The first home game will be on Friday, March 13th at Parnell Family Stadium against Campbellsville University. To keep up with the latest happenings in Blue Raider women's flag football, as well as in Lindsey Wilson's 28 other intercollegiate varsity programs, point your internet browser to lindseyathletics.com. That's your official home on the World Wide Web for all things Blue Raider related. Now let's get back to my conversation with Lindsey Wilson women's flag football coach Chris Raggard, along with juniors Jade Manziata from Staten Island, New York, and junior Ashton Dickerson, who's from Pace, Florida. Coach, you get 4 downs to make a first down in women's flag football, but you don't go 10 yards. You don't go the same amount of yards every time. Talk a little bit about some of the rules that are similar yet different to tackle football.
Okay, so a lot of the similarities obviously are the 4 downs, but it depends on what yard line you're at when you get inside the box. And what we call the box is the 20 yards that you have at a time. So on a flag football field, you have 4 sets of 20 yards for an 80-yard field. The end zones are still 10-yard end zones, but the game will start off without a kickoff. The ball will be spotted at the 14-yard line. And so you start with a 1st and 6. So first down with 6 yards to go. A lot of times what we will try to do is to kind of play the numbers a little bit. We don't necessarily want to get right across that first down line and have a 1st and 19 or a 1st and 18 or something like that. We'll probably take a 2nd and 1. So what you might see us do at times is take a knee or put the ball down or run right out of bounds a yard short of the first down. And then, we'll have 2nd and 1 and we can take a shot. And what we mean by that is we're trying to get, half the distance into the next box. We want to get, a 1st and 11, a 1st and 10, somewhere around that yard line. And just try to, always take the numbers and use them to our advantage. in a way. There are 4 downs. The only kicking you'll see is punts. We don't want to necessarily have to do that a whole lot. You'll probably see us go for it on 4th downs a lot if we're somewhere within 2 to 3 yards of a box to go, especially when we're inside the opponent's 40-yard line. We're always probably going to go for it depending on down and distance situations and that kind of thing. But, we use the numbers to our advantage. We like to play that kind of game. We'll take shots, we'll go deep, but a lot of times, our offense is very quick. If the ball's not out in about 2 seconds, you'll probably see a lot of quarterback runs, that kind of thing.
You talk about playing the numbers, and the numbers, you're a numbers man because you're also a math tutor here at Lindsey Wilson University. I imagine that is one of the things that must appeal to you about flag football is the numbers that involve, and that's part of the strategy in the game.
Yeah, it's a lot of, how can we use that to our advantage? Obviously, we use a lot of football terminology when it comes to flag football, but, we use it best to be able to game the system in a way. We're trying to always find ways to catch the opponents off guard in ways. We have certain plays where, we might, look like we're doing one thing, but we're doing another thing in terms of how the matchups on offense are going, depending on what kind of defense they're in. Obviously we have a lot of plays for if they're in zone defense. We have a lot of plays if they're in man defense. We have some plays that can be used either way. So it kind of just depends. One of the things about our schedule this year compared to some teams is we're playing a lot of first-year programs, but we are a first-year program, so we're trying to kind of see where we fit in that kind of landscape. I mean, we are playing teams that have been established for a while, obviously Campbellsville being one of them, Milligan. We're playing Life from Georgia when we play in the Campbellsville tournament in March. We're going up to Illinois, and we're playing a couple schools up there that have been, playing for a year or two. So, we're trying to get the best opportunity to see what we're up against teams that are kind of in the same ballpark as us, but also test ourselves against teams that have been around since the start of flag at the NAIA level, with Milligan being one of the first programs that started, and then Campbellsville starting a year after that.
Jade and Ashton, you all both grew up in football families in different ways. One, you grew up as a daughter of a coach and grew up as a sister of many football players. When you started to play flag football, did you find yourself having to maybe reprogram a little bit in terms of your approach to the game because the strategy is a little bit different than in tackle football that you had grown up watching as a kid? Or did things just sort of come naturally to you?
I feel like for me, maybe a little bit in an aspect of it, like 7 people, so you gotta work with that going on. But like football, flag football reminds me just like football. Like the coverages, the offensive plays, like quarterback, center, is basically football, but without an offensive line and defensive line. That's how I look at it.
For me, it was always like, I was watching football, but I was like younger at the time, so I didn't really know the rules. So flag has always been the same for me. Sometimes the rules have changed over the years between like IFAF or just other formats that I've played. Those rules have changed, but the basics of football has always been the same.
At 7 p.m. March 13th, all students are free. Y'all should come to the Campbellsville game. Actually, y'all need to be at the Campbellsville game. We need as much support and love as we can right now, so thank you.
That's Lindsey Wilson Jr. Ashton Dickerson. She's from Pace, Florida. She's an inaugural member of the inaugural Lindsey Wilson women's flag football team. You also heard from fellow junior Jade Mazziata. She's from Staten Island, New York, and from the coach as well, Chris Raggard, also in his first year of flag football at Lindsey Wilson. Once again, women's flag football's first home game, as Ashton said, will be on Friday, March 13th at Parnell Family Stadium. To read more about it, along with all of Lindsey Wilson's athletics, just dial up lindseyathletics.com on the World Wide Web, your official home for all things Blue Raider related. And that's going to do it for this 22nd edition of The View from the Hill for the 2025-2026 school year. You can tell us what you like or what you don't like about this podcast by firing off an email to us at news@lindsey.edu. Be sure to put podcast in the subject line. Also, be sure to encourage your friends, family members, co-workers, associates, and neighbors to subscribe to View from the Hill. They can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on the university's YouTube channel. View from the Hill is produced by Shelby Burton. She's Lindsey Wilson's Assistant Director of Public Relations and Media Producer. And until our next edition, I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson University Office of Public Relations. Thanks so much for joining us. So long, everybody, and have a nice day.